Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools Trust. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the June 7th meeting of the Trust, and I would recognize a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Passes. Financial reports. Mr. Winger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We actually have 4 items in your packet today. The first item is to approve the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools Trust Revenue and Obligation Report for April 2011. The report is similar to those that you've seen in the months past. The highlights are the total trust revenue to date exceeds now $571 million. There's approximately $138 million available for ID9 projects and $12.7 million available for suburban projects for future expenditure. The details are attached, and we recommend approval of this first report.
Why don't we go ahead and do the others as well?
Okay. The second report is actually a very similar report as well. This is the ratification of OC MAP's trust payments for the period of May 10th through June 8th. The detailed reports are attached. There's 89 sales tax payments in excess of $5.1 million. There are 15 bond payments in excess of $1.5 million. The third and fourth items are actually annual items that we review each year. The first item is items 3C, receive the fiscal year 2011-2012 Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools Sales Tax Fund budget. This is the budget that is for the operations of the MAPS office in regard to the actual projects. It was previously adopted and approved by Council on June 14th. You'll see a summary of the services in the first paragraph on your memo, and I'll bring those to your attention. It's approximately $1,598,664. This is slightly higher than last year. It's due to us actually taking on the additional workload of the 2007 bond issue projects, and so we've actually accounted for an increase in services in the next year. It's an increase of approximately $181,000 from the prior year. And then the last report is actually for the project side of the MAPS for Kids program. It's the adoption of the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools Trust budget for fiscal year 2011-2012. You'll see that it has trust administration, $271,711. The district ID9 total for all projects, $184,843,934. And then finally for the suburban schools, $13,593,685. We do have detailed reports attached on each of these. On this final one, I think the last comment that I'll make, as we've continued to accelerate the actual projects, you'll see that the actual budget for fiscal year 2011-2012 is less than last year by about $72 million. So that's just to show the amount of work that we've actually done. We are coming to an end. There are projects that are being expended, and we're still anticipating the bidding of the final projects within the next year. So with that, I can answer any questions on any of the 4 items.
Are there any questions?
Increased overhead from $180,000. We would pay that bill anyway, right?
We would, and if you recall, we actually entered into an agreement with the Oklahoma City Public School District to have our office manage. There is some joint management that's occurring where they're actually going to be paying the bills under the new bond issue, but we're still providing staff, and so we've actually increased our staffing by 1 full-time person plus some associated supporting staff for just that program. So that accounts for the increase.
Okay. Other questions? If not, I'd recognize a motion to approve all 4 financial reports. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Passes. Next, we're being asked to approve the site selection report for the new downtown elementary school and authorize the staff to proceed with the acquisition of the recommended site, project ES35.
Just going to bring a short summary to what has occurred in the past several months. Obviously, as we work towards the last project in the MAPS for Kids program, we're looking at the downtown elementary school. It's a school that's slated to accommodate approximately 500 students. We did go through a selection process and engaged TAP Architecture to be our architect of record. And one of the differences that we had them fulfill in their current architectural contract was not just for the design and the construction oversight, but to actually assist us in the site selection process. And so that process began earlier this year. A committee was formed to help review. We had a series of meetings through the months of February and March, went through a review period in April, and we're now today ready to have TAP present that site selection report to you for your consideration and approval. We do have Anthony McDermott here from TAP Architecture, and he's prepared to give that presentation and, of course, answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Eric. Mr. Chairman, members of the Trust, my name is Anthony McDermott. I'm a principal with TAP Architecture, and we would like to very quickly run you through a presentation of the process for site selection, and but please do feel free to interrupt me if you have questions as I'm going through. Advance with. Thank you. As Eric said, the process was a series of 3 meetings. 2 were scheduled to be workshops, and the third a final consideration and recommendation. I would characterize the meetings actually as more like 3 workshops because we did work in all 3 of our meetings together. The workshops were extremely well attended, and I would characterize our conversation as rigorous and vigorous. The first workshop, we identified and evaluated what we call Tier 1 sites. Tier 1 sites were any and every site that we had that had been identified with the school and had been suggested. We also added during the process 4 more sites for consideration, and we went through a process of identifying criteria, rating the criteria, and then evaluating the sites based on those criteria. So we, in workshop 1, we identified what we call Tier 1 sites, which were all the sites plus 4. In Tier 2, we narrowed those sites down for further consideration. And then in our final meeting, which really was sort of half workshop, half review and recommendation, we actually made the final site selection and the recommendation that we'll talk about today. We did identify criteria. I would say actually the very first thing we did was identify the boundaries of downtown. Downtown has many different definitions depending on whether you're a city planner or a transit specialist or a downtown business person. So the very first thing that we did was identify the downtown boundaries. We also looked at the school program guidelines that Eric indicated earlier. This is a school for 500 students, and so we went through the characteristic process of identifying how large that school would be, the major components of the school, and then we basically developed footprints for that school. We also agreed, I think generally, without exception, that the downtown school was a special opportunity and should take advantage of downtown assets. So we identified those assets, and from an educational standpoint, we listed what we thought would be beneficial components of the downtown. And I would say that as we went through this process, the proximity of the school to those assets really became the most important criteria for the selection of this site. We ranked the sites, as you see here in the color before you, in the color coordinated positive, negative, neutral, or positive, neutral, negative, and we went through the entire list of sites and assigned them a color based on whether we thought the site had a positive attribute, a neutral, or negative. As I said earlier, we did go through the prototypical programming effort that has been gone through for all of the maps for kids' schools based on a 500 pupil or student model. We did test fits of that model on the site, and what you see before you, the gray lines actually form the boundary of a typical city block. So you can basically translate those into streets, and then we have identified here a 1-story option, a 2-story option, and a 3-story option. And I think you'll see from the components that we overlaid on the city block that in a 1-story option, the city block wasn't quite large enough. A 2 a two-story option was a push, and then a three-story option did fit on a city block site. As I mentioned earlier, we entered into quite a bit of discussion about the boundaries of the downtown and what, for the purposes of the school, would represent what we could all agree on was a downtown boundary.
Will these boundaries be the boundaries of the target district for the school?
Not necessarily.
They're not coincident. Those two things are not coincident. This is the city planning department's definition of downtown, and we started there, and then we worked on basically what we defined as a group in this workshop process was where did we as a group feel that the boundaries of downtown were, or pretty much where should the school be located, to where we had a consensus view that that was really downtown. So it was a smaller area than the city planning department's definition of downtown. These were the Tier 1 sites. We started with...
Anthony, I'm sorry.
Yes.
That red line was city planning?
It's city planning department's definition of downtown. Yes, sir. The sites that we started out with, 12 sites we started with, this was a list developed by the Maps for Kids office and basically included every site that we knew had ever been talked about as a location for the downtown school. We actually added 4 to that list during the process of our workshop, and we evaluated them right along with the other Tier 1 sites. This is a composite map that shows the definition of downtown according to our workshop process. So the red line, the heavy red line you see, was the area outside of which the committee agreed could not necessarily be defined as downtown in terms of what the committee thought a downtown school, where a downtown school should be. The numbers on this key map identify what we thought to be assets for the school. These could be considered downtown locations, be they cultural, sports, that would positively impact the resources available to this particular site and this particular school. The uppercase letters identify the sites that were under consideration, and then you see at the bottom of the legend other what we thought were important things to identify, such as bus routes, bike routes, the location of the tunnels, and the railroad, those kinds of things. Then we went through the Tier 1 evaluation process, and we went through each and every one of the sites, and we assigned them, as I said, those colors according to whether we thought there was a positive attribute, a neutral, or a negative attribute. And as you can see from this list, we started eliminating sites that we thought, or that didn't evaluate well. We did that for all the sites under consideration, including the 4 sites that were added during the process. Workshop 2, we discussed and agreed on more specific evaluation criteria. The first evaluation, the first workshop, was really based, I would say, on proximity to assets and location downtown. Location was really the most important evaluation criteria during Workshop 1. Workshop 2, we started to look at other things, including these. Who owned the site, what would be the acquisition issues, topography, geology, all these things that you can read for yourself. We tried to apply each one of these criteria to the sites that were being considered. Safety, of course, was extremely important. Traffic, vehicular, rail, those kinds of things, as well as environmental issues. Environmental being not just under the ground, but noise and acoustics. Cost, obviously, entered into our consideration and into our criteria. And that would not just be the site acquisition cost, but also infrastructure costs. And then we went through the sites, and you can see at the top, there were 8 sites being evaluated in the Tier 2 study, and then you see the criteria on the left-hand side and this matrix that we developed. In what I think all of us believe to be a very objective process. We came down to 3 sites that were, actually we came down to 4 sites. One had an unwilling seller, and so we excluded it from consideration at that time. We came down to 3 sites. The site at Sheridan and Walker, which currently does not have improvements on it. The site at Main and Broadway, which is most people know as the Sheraton Century Center, which is currently for sale. And what was originally Oklahoma City High School, more commonly known as Central High School, or the Southwestern Bell headquarters, and now Farmers and Ranchers, which is also for sale. So those were the three locations that garnered them, that performed best in the evaluation process. We entered into some, I would say, vigorous conversation and some a lot of good conversation, a lot of views were put forth, and in the end, I think there was a very clear consensus that the best site would be the Sheridan and Walker site. And for these reasons, proximity to assets and the potential to enhance the educational experience, the size and physical characteristics, accessibility both from a pedestrian standpoint and from a vehicular standpoint, and a public transportation standpoint. And then the cost and ease of acquisition. The site is owned by Okura currently and is available, and it is assembled. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's an overview of our process and selection and the recommendation of the committee.
Other questions? Carl?
Can you tell me, when you say potential to enhance the educational experience, how do you define that? What were the parameters you were looking at?
I believe it was certainly expressed in the committee many times that this was an opportunity. There were opportunities in downtown that did not exist anywhere else in the metropolitan area in terms of quick and easy access, not just to the assets themselves, but the accessibility of people that populate those assets to the school, because it works both ways. And I think that's, in a nutshell.
So using that as the parameters, why would this site be superior from that perspective than, say, the Sheridan Century site or the 8th and Robinson? Can you?
I believe that the Sheraton Century site certainly would match the Okura site in terms of proximity to the assets. It had some challenges financially that we could not overcome. And there were some ownership issues there as well. It has a complex ownership structure.
Okay, and then the Central High School?
That, I believe that there was a lot of sentimental attachment to that site, and I think several members of the committee really wanted emotionally to make that the best site. In the end, we could not make it work economically. I mean, it wasn't the location so much as it was just the economics. It's extremely large. It's about 3 times the requirement of the program. And with acquisition costs and renovation costs, it just became prohibitively expensive.
Even trying to put the administration building with it made it.
Yeah. And yes, your chairman was, of course, on the committee and was present for all of this conversation. So.
Other questions?
Where you say there was vigorous and rigorous discussion.
Where or when?
When there was rigorous...
When there was?
Can you talk about, I'm assuming there was some opposition to this site. Could you say in summary what that opposition was?
There really wasn't any opposition to this site. I mean, at the end of the process, I think everybody was, it may not have been the sentimental favorite, but it certainly became the clear winner in terms of applying the criteria. And rigorous and vigorous discussion, I think, mostly took place around the old Oklahoma City High School property.
Yeah, I think the issue of being against this site never really was an issue. It was the fact that everybody who was in favor of the Central High School site was pushing very hard for that, but the numbers just were double what they could have been. I mean, it wasn't even close.
Still building scratch, starting over.
Was there any concern with the proximity to City Hall and having to deal with the jail and the bus station?
Bus station's moving.
That station's moving.
Bus station's moving.
Oh, yes, the Greyhound station. Yeah, it is moving, right.
Yeah.
No, I thought we thought the proximity to City Hall was actually an attribute.
Thank you, Anthony.
Good government, good government. This is unrelated to what kind of school it'll be, correct? That's yet to be determined. Versus charter versus...
There are negotiations presently with the school district, there's a group that's trying to charter the school, and I think they made some progress, but I don't believe they're there yet. And
They're there yet, right.
Anthony asked about the attendance boundaries and such, and I think that's part of the issues that are being negotiated at this time.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Anthony.
I have a couple more questions.
Yes.
Can you tell me, and this may not be a question for you, it may be more appropriate for staff, do we know, I know there was at one time talk that we would start with an elementary downtown, but there might be the possibility of adding on to it, doing a middle or high school? And
That's been discussed as being desired. That was not within the scope of the Mass for Kids project.
Okay. Yeah. Would there be enough room on this site to contemplate such an item if they were to decide that, or would that need to be a separate site? Is there enough capacity on the site?
I can speak to that, if that's okay. There wouldn't be room on this particular city block for another facility.
But there is vacant land adjacent to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Right across the street to the west.
Okay.
And, I mean...
And south.
You could make it work.
Okay.
What's contemplated here is just the G on the presentation, or is it the G, H, and or J?
G.
Just the G.
G. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, Anthony.
Right.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Next item is is to approve the final plans and specifications for Independence Charter Middle School and authorize the secretary to advertise for bids to be received July 26, 2011, project ES 60.
I might introduce Bruce to you today. We're at that point today where we're able to move forward on Independence Charter Middle School. One of the comments that I'll make is the project is slightly over the budget by approximately $103,000. Two issues, fire suppression system and some asbestos abatement that need to be taken care of that just weren't a part of the original program. The other thing that you might note in the presentation towards the end is there is a community group that's raised some funds that want to do some additional enhancements, a little bit like what we did with Wilson Arts. And so Bacchus Payne Architects is working on an ad-alternate design to do some additional gymnasium enhancements that will be bid as an ad alternate, and as we move forward, if those are to be accepted by the group, then funds will be forwarded and paid for as a part of our project under the MAPS office. So with those, Bruce, thanks for being here, and Bruce can answer any questions that you have following the presentation.
Mr. Cameron and members of the trust, thanks for having us. It's been our tradition to tell a quick joke on the prior architect, John. But here's the joke. Hey, Anthony, have you heard the joke about the airplane And he says, no, and I go, never mind, it's over your head. So, that's tradition. I subject myself to that each time I come here. So, Independence Charter Middle School, again, is a thing from my heart because I went to grade school there as a Burbank Bumblebee, and it's been an absolute delight to be a part of the process. Vanna Baker and her staff and their board are amazing in what they have committed to doing there. The sign, their mantra is no excuses, and they don't make any. And it's been an absolute delight. When I visit the school, I call my old friends and say, guess where I am? And I'm in Mrs. Flo's class. Anyway, and they laugh nervously because we all got in trouble in Mrs. Flo's class. Independence Charter Middle School is about 31,000 square feet. We're adding another 11,800, which will bring it just under an acre in size, and it will accommodate 400 students. The charter doesn't have a goal to grow it to that size at this point, but they will be able to do so. We're adding a media center, restrooms, locker rooms, the gymnasium. The gymnasium, I think Eric wanted me to address the public-private partnership that they're doing there. They raised money for a wood floor for their gym because they didn't want the MAP standard of a vinyl composition tile, and I believe they've raised the money to do so. I've been told they have. So that's pretty cool. We're adding a coach's office and storage area. The renovation includes a total redesign of the administrative area. We're converting the boiler room to accommodate a food service line. Currently, the food service line is out in the multi-purpose room, and we'll be able to get that all behind doors, and so their multi-purpose room will have a lot more flexibility and look a lot nicer when we hide that. We'll put a fire sprinkler in throughout the building, cosmetic improvements. The asbestos thing was a bigger number than, well, it wasn't included in the original document, so it's an add to the scope of the project. We're going to remove the existing stage in the multipurpose room and turn it into a classroom, and then update the existing restrooms to be ADA compliant. The site upgrades, we're providing an accessible route to the track that's on the east side of the school. We're doing some repairs to the parking lot and sidewalks, and then the west facade of the building and becomes the new entry to the building. The west side is oriented toward Independence Avenue. The name of the school is Independence. Most everybody comes and approaches the school from Independence, so everybody's been entering the school kind of on the side, which wasn't particularly attractive, and we're adding a canopy on the west side to make the new entry orient to the west. Site map, aerial. The space allocation, classrooms, you can see the gym, the media room, the areas that are either restroom or administrative. The layout doesn't change. The use of spaces doesn't change very much, but it does get reconfigured a bit. The finished plans. On the vinyl composition floors for the classrooms and corridors, we went with a random pattern because we noticed that over the years tiles had been replaced in the existing school, and every time they replaced a tile it didn't match the old tile, and we thought that by making it a bit random, if they had to replace one, it wouldn't really matter because it's a random pattern. That sort of made sense to us and to the school. Carpets, tiles, we're sticking with the colors of the Patriots, the red, white, and blue, but not too red, white, and blue. A couple of views from the outside. This is the orientation, what was the side of the building, adding a canopy, doing some signage and some landscaping along the west side to spiff it up and make it a lot more attractive. View of the gym. The gym entry is going to be a 24/7 deal. It has a lockdown capability from the rest of the school, so they can use the gym in hours beyond the school hours. I know they're in conversations with a local church about renting the gym, and so they want to be able to use it at times beyond their hours. Now the budget. We are $103,000 over budget, and you guys have been sitting around this horseshoe, and you know how schizophrenic the bids have been over the last several months, from being really high to, whoa, it's low again, then back high again. I don't know what the market's doing there. So our confidence level in the numbers is good. We have a really long history with our cost estimator for 17 years, and so we have confidence in it, but watching what's happening with other numbers, causes you to pause. The alternates that we're looking at that we want to take for sure, alternate number 1, the Northwest Canopy, that's the new entry, and that I think is essential to the design of the school. We made the tectum panels in the gymnasium an alternate because the school wants to do that for acoustical reasons within their gymnasium, because they're going to use it for a lot of different purposes. And so we wanted to be able to give them an accurate number so they could pay for that, along with the 6-foot gym extension and the wood floor. The wood floor is not an alternate. The wood floor is an alternate. It is an alternate. I don't know why it's not listed on here. Actually, I take that back. I'm wrong. The wood floor is not an alternate. They're paying for that separate. Pardon my confusion. The 6-foot gym extension is the alternate, and so we'll know on bid day exactly what that gym extension costs, so they will be able to write a check for the 6-foot gym extension. The 6-foot extension is so they can put 3 rows of bleacher seating in there, because they have 2 assemblies every day, before school and after school, and the whole school comes together. And they want to be able to have their kids sit in the bleachers rather than on the floor, which is what they do now. If you've never witnessed that there, it's a remarkable thing. Vanna Baker will go up and say something like, okay, you've got a few minutes to talk amongst yourselves, and then she'll let them talk, and then she goes up and raises her hand and it goes silent. And I go, wow, that was cool. And then she tells them what they need to hear, and then dismisses.
Are you saying that doesn't happen at your house?
Hey, that doesn't happen at my house.
I tried it, and it did not work. So they're doing amazing things. The millwork in the classrooms is another one. We would love to be able to do that, but to get our estimate kind of within reach of what the original MAPS budget was, we pulled some things out that were actually very painful to pull out, and the millwork is one of them. The existing rooftop units are over the administrative area. It would be great to replace those. It wasn't a part of the original MAPS scope of work. We don't have to. Their lifespan, they're about 10 years old now. While we're redoing the roof with insurance money, it'd be great to replace the units, but we can only do that if we have money to do so. This is the bidding process is the only number on here that changes just a little bit. And actually, we got that change. It goes out to bid July 12th, and the bids are due at the end of July in 3 weeks. Then the building, we've told them, congratulations, it looks like construction will begin about your first day of school, to add to your chaos. So, but they are excited about it. They understand that they've done pretty well without all this, and they just can't believe the blessing of being able to implement and add to what they're doing there. So on their behalf, I say thank you. And if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Questions?
Is the gym existing now?
No, there's not a gymnasium. There's a multi-purpose room. It's otherwise known as a cafeteria.
Okay.
That has about a 14-foot ceiling. So you learn to, and they have a basketball goal in there, and you learn to shoot it
Flat
really
shot.
flat. Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions? Yes, Carla.
Is the gym construction are the funds from the same purpose, and I guess the reason I'm asking is I know there was a recent bond issue that was passed on behalf of the Oklahoma City public school system. Wasn't MAPS, that was for a lot of gymnasiums.
So this gym is actually a middle school gym, so it's being funded out of the Maps for Kids projects.
Okay.
The ones that are out of the 07 are elementary
Or
gymnasiums.
elementary
But you got to have the vinyl floor.
Well, the standards that we created for Maps for Kids was that the high schools that had the competitive gyms, that had the bleachers, would have the wood floors, and that's where you'd have competitive games. But we felt from the middle schools down that there were more recreational spaces. It was the discussions that we had early on with the teachers and the staff many, many years ago when we developed the design standards. So I wouldn't suggest that those haven't changed, but as we've done the equity arrangement across the district, this is what we followed. This is just something that this school chooses to do. They think they're going to put in a wood floor, and the architect's been able to provide for that to happen, with their own funds on their schedule.
Okay.
Which is, I think, the system worked really well through that, and I appreciate the school board and you all being open to, approaching something a little bit differently. And if they want it, then tell us how bad you want it with your pocketbooks, and that's what they're doing. So I thought it was really great how that worked out. They wanted it, and you allowed them to do it, but they paid for it. So.
Chairman, I'm sorry. How do we decide on these alternatives?
See how the bids come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions? Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Passes. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you very much.
Next item, we have several contracts. First, to ratify the issuance of and approve addenda numbers 1 and 2, award the contract base bid plus alternate 1 to Globe Construction Company, project ES 61, Rancho Village Elementary School, in the amount of $4,582,000, and approved contracts and bonds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did have 5 bidders, and we are recommending the base bid plus alternate 1 with Globe Construction. The original PIP value for this project was $3.5 million, but this was a project that we knew was going to come in over budget. Rancho Village is a special needs school, and through the presentation process that the architect made to us, they'd anticipated a budget of about $4.2 million in that final plan stage, and that was to account for 4 dedicated special needs classrooms that are above and beyond the OCMAP standards. The low bid came in at $4.5 million, so although the memo reports that we're about $1 million over the PIP budget, it's about $360,000 over what we were expecting for this project, and we had included this school in the contingency fund update that we recently provided, and so this is a known quantity, and we are recommending approval.
Questions? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Next item, concurrence with the Independent School District Number 89 and approving the contract for architectural services with MA Plus Architecture, LLC, I-89 2007 School Bond Issue Project SB 12, Spiegel and Taft Stadiums, fee of $181,500, and assigning Terracon Consultants and GMR and Associates, Inc. as testing laboratories.
This will actually be our 3rd architectural contract on the 2007 bond issue projects as a part of the additional management that we're providing for Oklahoma City Public Schools. This is for the stadiums, but one of the items that I want to call to your attention is the budget for the 2 projects is approximately $11 million. $11 million. But there was no scope for which amounts should go to which school or to which stadiums. And so we're actually engaging a study. The architect's prepared to begin with a study to evaluate both facilities and make recommendations on the work to be performed and the budgets to be assigned. And so this is a contract that we're anticipating amending at a future date once they submit that first report. So they'll come back to this trust and make a report on their findings. And at that point, we would then negotiate contract amendment to move forward with the formal design and construction services. So with that, staff is recommending approval.
So it's just for the fees?
This is actually just for the study, so it does not include design.
Other questions?
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm clear on that. Now, so the $181,000 fee is just for which budget, how much budget goes to each stadium?
It's to go out and field verify both buildings, to do full surveys, to look at the sites, to look at the buildings, and come up with the recommendations on what improvements need to be done as a part of a report to come back to this trust. So they're going to go through and find all the details of the buildings and come back and make a recommendation on the budget and scope for each stadium.
So the 11 million is just a guess.
It may not be 50-50. I think, it's possible they may find more need at one stadium than another, and they're going to need to balance that with the $11 million budget.
And there is the potential that it would both come in over as well,
That's also potential. But we'll find out more when the report's...
once they...
This budget is just like the others that we have
Right,
early
right.
on that were done under the
Sure.
project implementation plan.
But what will be
Although,
nice
I
about
guess-
the studies, it will give us a full inventory
It
Yes.
sure will.
of what we need.
Other questions? Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Next item is to convey quitclaim deeds from the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools Trust to Independent School District Number 89 of Oklahoma County, Oklahoma for Project ES 18, Cesar Chavez Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is actually a unique item. We don't do this very often, but I want to call your attention to the handout that staff was able to provide at the beginning of the meeting. What you see with this handout is approximately what's actually two parcels. We have the Educare property that's located on the left side of the drawing. We have the Cesar Chavez property that's located on the right side. Grand Boulevard is at the top of the page. As we were doing the land acquisition process, there was about 6 acres, a little over 6 acres to be acquired as a part of Cesar Chavez School. Obviously, the work's proceeded, the work's nearly done. The items that are identified in white on this page have been previously conveyed directly to the school district. Either they were conveyed by Oklahoma County or they were conveyed either through some exchange that we had with Educare. Those that are in yellow are the ones that are identified in your memo as ones that this trust directly acquired, and now that the project is complete or substantially complete, we're ready to convey those to the district. So action on this item is conveying the property to Oklahoma City Public Schools and deeding those assets to them at this time.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. We now have a couple of change orders. First, approve change order number 6 for Southeast High School, the increase of $94,110, project ES 77.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We believe this could be we believe this is the last change order for Southeast. It's substantially complete. The school's in operation. They're doing some punch list work, but there's 4 items that were necessary as a part of construction. Automated controls is item number 1 that you'll find on that list. That is a building automation system. This provides for the remote monitoring and also the remote ability to turn air conditioning on and off from a central location. There are some additional classroom modifications needed for some special needs classrooms as well. There's 39 days included for the classrooms. It's about 1.5% of change total for 7% on the entire contract if we include all change orders to date. Contingency funds are available, and we recommend approval.
Questions? Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Approved. Final change order, approved change order number 3 for Northwest Classen High School, increase of $128,985, project ES 78.
This project's about 40% complete, and you'll find 13 items for consideration. There's 4 that are significant, items 2, 3, 8, and 9. 2 is some electrical revisions, 3 is some door hinge modifications, 8 is bleacher modifications that electrify those bleachers to allow them to automatically extend and retract. And then there's some eye wash stations on item number 9. It's less than 1% in change, it's 3% total, and we recommend approval.
Are there questions? Is there a motion for approval? I'm
How far
sorry.
along is this, John?
About 40%.
40? It's still in good shape.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved, Mr.
Been
Chairman.
moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Vote. Approved. We have 2 purchase order authorizations. Being asked to approve the expenditure of funds for the purchase of furniture, fixtures, and equipment for Buchanan Elementary School, not to exceed $50,000, project ES 49.
This and the next item, we're obviously at a stage on these 2 schools, Buchanan ready to order the furniture. After the inventory was complete, this request for $50,000 exceeds the PIP budget by $18,064. Contingency funds are available. We recommend approval.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Approved. Next, we're being asked to approve the expenditure of funds for the purchase of furniture, fixtures, and equipment for Sequoia Elementary School, not to exceed $88,000, project ES 55.
Similar to the previous item, this one exceeds the PIP budget by $24,202, and again, contingency funds are available. We recommend approval.
Questions? Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion, but I think it's just a common thing that people, the PIP budget's just not very good.
You know, what we're finding is that we base the budgets on new construction only, but what we're finding is as we renovate some of the existing spaces, those weren't taken into account. So if we take an existing classroom and convert it to a new use, no longer can we use their classroom furniture, we have to buy more media furniture, or we have to buy more something different. And so those are the differences that you're seeing, is conversion of existing space to a new function.
It's more of a run-of-the-mill overage, not something.
I think we're seeing it typically on the renovations, and I think we'll see more of these, but I think what we're doing is we're finding that construction costs are less because we're renovating more than we would normally pay, so what we're paying over on these, we're probably finding some savings in construction.
Move second. Moved and seconded. Approved. Next item is to accept the Pierce Elementary School project and place the maintenance bond into effect, project ES41.
The project's complete. We're ready to...
Is there a motion for approval?
So
Been moved, seconded. Vote. Approved. Mr. Winger, would you stand in for Mr. Couch and give us an update?
I'd be happy to. We still have a significant number of schools in construction. As of today, there are 28. Several of those anticipated to complete through the summer as we get ready for the new school year. We'll begin bidding again Independence Charter Middle School, which you saw the presentation today. We'll bid on July the 12th. We have several bids in August, Rockwood, Hayes, and the rebid of West Nichols Hills that are scheduled. We do have a temporary hold on community meetings since we're out for the school year that we mentioned at the last meeting, but those will restart here in about a month towards the end of July. And then the last item that I have for us is that we are anticipating the cancellation of the July 5th trust meeting. We have obviously the holidays, but we're able to move those items to our next meeting, which we're anticipating on July the 19th. So you will receive a notice of the cancellation and plan on our next meeting on the 19th of July. You might.
Are there any other comments worthwhile? Any comments by trustees, staff, citizens? Seeing none, we're adjourned.